labeled as being totalitarian. And it thrived on corruption. But I have seen nothing, absolutely nothing, that comes even close what was happening in this so-called terror protection jurisdiction in New South Wales. It is corruption beyond description. When I say corruption, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is bribed, but what it means, they are perverting the law. They're perverting law and taking these children for the reason that it is driven by those who are benefiting. They are getting hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, when Prue was the minister, she actually promoted privatization of the terror protection system, and she succeeded. And as a result, she has been promoted. She's now in a better position. Now we have another nobody who is a puppet of another of those NGOs who is now the minister. She will do nothing better. There are liberals. Labor, exactly the same. In those years, I have a statistic since 2001 till 2011, with Liberal control, the increase of children in foster care just was steady increase. It more than doubled in 10 years' time. Now, I was thinking about this. What do we do about it? If you vote for Labour instead of Liberal, nothing will change. It will just, labels will change. And I would ask you all now, we have election now in this state in March, 28 March I think. Do not put your vote against any candidate of any party. Look for the independents. If there is independence in your ticket, put number 1 there. If there is another independent, put number 2. Leave the other blank. So let the independents come in and overthrow this incompetent and corrupt mob that we have here in the state. Mary mentioned the caseworkers. When I looked at them first time, I met in a so-called the mediation conference, and I looked at them in their eyes, and I noticed the glaze in their eyes. And in this country, I have been in a religious cult where I was brainwashed. I was there for 7 years. They threw me out eventually. Took me another 14 years to recover. And I know how a brainwashed person looks. And I look in the eyes of these caseworkers. They are brainwashed. They are not bad people. Don't blame, they are not bad people. They have been brainwashed. When they get this job, they go for a training. I don't know how long, probably 3 months, I'm not sure. They go for intensive training. And then every week, they have training, half-a-day training. This is exactly what is happening in the cults. When you get there, you are under intensive training. And then every week, you have once or twice, you go to so-called church, and you keep brainwashed. And you can't get out of it. I wouldn't have gotten out of it if they didn't throw me out. Because I'm liquid liberal thinking, and I noticed what I'm doing, all about money. And I said, hang on, it doesn't say that, it's not written in the Bible. They threw me out straight away. Now they're trying to do the same thing in this where I'm doing as a lawyer. They have made already, I have about 6 complaints to the Legal Service Commission against me. I have defended 4, and there are still 2 of them pending, because they want badly to get rid of me. Legal Aid doesn't want to admit me on a panel, so when my clients come, they apply for legal aid and they say, my lawyer is George Potkonyak. No way, he is not on the panel, and that's it. They do not want to admit me to the panel. So when I go to court, I have a lawyer who is paid by the government, which is Doc's lawyer. Then I have a lawyer who is paid, who represents children, again paid by legal aid, which means paid by the government. And then sometimes we have another party who has a lawyer. So I end up having 2 or 3 lawyers all against me, against my client, my parent, or my mother. Now, in these 6 years, I had only 2 instances where children's lawyer supported restoration of the child to the parents. 2 instances in 6 years. All of them, they follow whatever docs want to do. And quite often you will find lawyer for the docs makes submission, children's lawyer said, I accept his submission, or the other way around. Children's lawyer makes submission to the court, the other lawyer said, I accept children's lawyer submission. Now, I'm not going to say more about my profession. You'll be the judges anyway. When Prue wanted to privatize the care and protection system, or so-called care and protection system, what they tried to portray in public media, that the department is inefficient. It was inefficient, it still is. But that inefficiency is created deliberately in order that it can justify privatization. So at that time, there were reports in the Murdoch press. One day, you will find about 2 or 3 pages with pictures of the children who have lost their lives while in the care of the parents. And then next day, a few days later, there was another report. Supposedly they give opportunity to a parent to say something. So they have found one woman who admits she was drug addict, she was using drugs. Now, there are some parents like that, no question about that. Now, what they have done, they have portrayed every parent from whom the child has been removed to be like that woman. Drug addict, alcoholic, violence, mental health, God knows what. And of course, they want public support, because when you talk to normal people, what is happening here, and when I talk to them, they look at me and they think this guy is crazy. Well, maybe I am, because I'm involved in this mess, but I'm not giving up. Another 30, 40 years, and when I pass away, well, that will be a different story. Now, Prue has succeeded in that one. Now, her successor in the ministry, she is now trying to promote this adoption, so this is the way to go. You know why they want adoption? Because they have stuffed the foster care system with so many children. They are falling off the edge. There is no more room in foster care. They can't take any more. So what they're going to do, they're going to take them and sell them off into adoption. Imagine that, selling our children into adoption. To whom? To the rich ones, to those who have money. The reason for that one, so they will create more space, more room in the foster care, and then they will go after your children again. Yeah. This is what it is. Of course, the figures will show, oh well, now these children who have been adopted, they are no longer in care or protection, so the numbers will apparently drop a little bit. But when you add the number of children that are in foster care and number of children that are adopted, the figures will go much higher than we have now. And now you have again Murdoch Press step in, and they have interview with the Tony Abbott, interview with Premier New South Wales, interview with this nobody, some actress so-called, who has no idea what she's talking about. She has some money, some idiots gave her some money so she can buy a child. Now she is promoting adoption.
One-stop shop.
My God. Wow. You know what? People are listening to them. Yeah. And you will find when the newspapers, they publish the articles on the internet, you're supposed to be able to comment. You click on the comment and you write down comment. Now on that one that was published about Abbott and this woman, whatever her name is, I can't remember her name, so insignificant. I found one comment, there was 2-line comment, somebody said, great, this is really great, you are really good. So another guy put comment and he was critical about adoption. So I put my comment, within minutes they disappeared. And tried again, no, you can't comment anything. So what they want people to read only what they want what they want you to hear. And what I believe, these articles in Telegraph and Now Again, it is paid either by them over here in this house or by those agencies who are going to benefit. These are not news items, they are advertisements paid by these people. And of course, Murdoch, you give him money, he'll publish anything. Unfortunately, we don't have that much money, so he's not going to publish it.
We need to go where Deborah is going. She's giving us a stage, she's giving us a platform to go to. Where they go to, we go to.
Right. Okay. I wouldn't add anything more. If anyone wishes to talk to me later on to get some more details, you're welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
My name is Matanijigachiwakin. I'm bear clan of the Church organization. Those that can wonder why an American First Nation, Canadian First Nation person is here in this country is because myself and a couple of thousand other half and full-blood Native American kids were sold here for adoption in the 60s and 70s. Australian Aboriginal kids were sold in the US for adoption. I brought this up in the Senate inquiry and other inquiries with ministers, and the comment we get is, oh well. How I know this to be true is because I don't have a birth certificate. There are no birth records of me in this country. I have no ability to trace my family. Since being back home in Canada, living on reds for a little while, I got sick. And the doctors need family medical history for a diagnosis. I don't have it. So the medical door is closed. I cannot get the answers I need to get well. And I get dumped on a disability pension. And then the Abbott government gets in, and if I can't prove through medical evidence, I'm dumped on the street. What I want to talk about today is not so much the facts and figures. It's the real world consequences of adoption on those children when we become adults like myself. It tears our reality apart. I remember being born. I've had many clinical psychologists say that's impossible, but I remember being born. I remember my mother screaming, "Don't take my baby." Oh. I remember my umbilical cord being wrapped around my leg as I was taken from wherever the birthing room was. I remember being put in the cargo hold of a plane and shipped over here because I'm an R&R baby. I'm a Vietnam era baby. The effect those memories have are lifelong. Then you are placed in an adoption family with their emotional expectations that you are expected to fulfill. And when you don't, you pay for it for the rest of your life. The abuse of my childhood was condoned because I was a failed abortion. In primary school, when I was acting up like any kid that's been through any form of trauma does, their solution was to lock me in a cupboard. Because of my indigenous ancestry, the religions around my childhood blamed it on Satan. This, as horrific as it sounds, is more common than not. When we are placed up for adoption, we are no longer classed as a normal human being. We are a mistake that has to be resolved. We don't count in government eyes. We don't count in the system's eyes. We don't exist. We have to fight and use all the resources we have to find whatever information we can. We have to take government officers to court to get documentation, which we cannot afford to do. We didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be taken. I didn't ask to be abused in my adopted family by their religion. I didn't ask to be forced to live now in the room I was abused in as a child, because I have nowhere else to live, because I'm on disability. I cannot afford to even pay the rent in my own place. We are thousands. What is being taught to sociologists, psychologists, counselors, and that now, in Australia, is 20 years out of date. The studies that I have read, done in Europe and the US on the effects of adoption that are current, are not even acknowledged in the universities here, being taught to those that are there to supposedly, when they're employable, as a psychologist or a psychiatrist, to help us. part of what Gillard said in the federal apology for forced adoption is we would get all the help we needed. Out of all of that journey, I gave evidence here. I was one of the first people to give evidence at the Federal Senate inquiry in Sydney. All these promises made by ministers. Out of that whole journey, we got a website. That is it. That is all we got, was a website. The psychologists that we were supposed to talk to have no idea. I went for 6 sessions just to see what was on offer. The majority of adoptees that I personally know and mothers that I personally know, and they number in the hundreds, would have suicided after the 2nd session. Because exactly what was said to me as a child, the psychologist said to me last year, you should be grateful.
Really? For what? For what? For being abused?
This is the thing. We don't exist in the system's eyes. There is an overrepresentation of all forms of abuse, both victim of and perpetrator of, in the adoption circles. I'm a firm believer, evil is not born, it is taught. Adoption teaches us children that we are a mistake. We are treated as a mistake. Therefore, we grow up to make society pay. We become addicted to being abused because that is all we're worth. I know so many women who will choose an abusive relationship over a loving one because they are addicted to being abused, because they were removed. Yes, there are children that need to be removed in this country, but the overwhelming majority of the more serious cases are ignored. I know of 2 cases on the Central Coast in Gosford last year. A 16 and 17-year-old girl forced and pressured at every point to relinquish at birth. They did. One suicided 2 weeks later, the other I've not heard from. That is the price tag of removal of children from young kids. They had no criminal record. They had done nothing wrong bar be 16 and 17 years old. And their parents, because of the embarrassment, pressured them. The social workers pressured them. There is one simple solution for child removal in this country. It becomes a federal bound law. The system is made federal, where it is the same across the board. And the Australian Federal Police are the only ones that have the power to remove children when it's placed in front of a magistrate and a jury. You get caught with a $100 bag of marijuana, you get to go in front of a jury. Your child gets taken, you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
How's that right?
No, it's not.
In simple common sense, how is that right? You kick a dog, you get to go in front of a jury. You be unemployed or a victim of domestic violence who was run from her apartment, you get the risk of losing your kids. Now with the persecution of single mothers, they've set a direct pathway. The reduction of the income for single mothers to the point where they cannot survive.
Setting them up to fail.
On paper, their kids are removed.
Yeah.
Disabled to work from home.
Yeah.
As soon as your child youngest reaches 8 years of age, if you have no other form of income or you're not in a relationship, your child can be removed because on paper you cannot afford to raise them. That is what this government behind us has set up, backing the federal government. Domestic violence shelters are shut down.
Yeah.
Women's refuges are shut down. Support services are shut down. Educational services are shut down. Every resource so that people do not fall through the cracks is gone. Waiting lists are a mile long. Any woman that wants to get an education, the amount of effort and battles she's got to go through to get it, what hope have they got?
Yeah.
And the government solution is remove the kids. You're an abuser. Because you were beaten by your husband or your partner. You are a problem to be solved. You have no rights. You are not a human being. The only way this will change is when people start to really open their eyes to the reality of what's around them. Not just the converted that are here. And if the government, and this is not a threat, this is simple 1 + 1 = 2 common sense. We outnumber the majority of all other groups in this population. Throughout the federal Senate inquiry, there was a statistical estimate of 2.2 million Australians affected by adoption in this country. Then you have stolen gen, then you have forgotten Australian, then you have refugee kids. Yep. We number in the millions. And we all sit in our little boxes, tearing our world apart and having our world torn apart.
Forgotten Australians have 10% Indigenous
Yep.
content.
Yep. The statistics are massive. But because we have fallen through the crack, we don't have a voting power. We feel alone. But the internet is starting to unite us. We're starting to talk. The benefit of that is hopefully to save a non-violent outcome. Aboriginal elders that I've spoken with from around Australia have brought up that they have had enough. And they're going to do what First Nations people back home, the Haudenosaunee, did, which was blockade. They're going to shoot police. That simple. I don't want to see that happen here. I've done everything I can in the last 4 years to try to convince them not to. But it's coming. Western Sydney is going to explode because of this. Because you cannot remove children from their mothers and not expect it to affect her family, herself, and her kids. I am tired of being ignored. I am tired of having to live with the consequences of what was done to me by people that make choices on my behalf that will not accept liability or accountability matter.
What do we do? What do we do?
The only thing we can do is stay alive. We're dropping like flies. We have to stay alive. We have to take every opportunity we have to speak about what was being done. On trains, on buses, at work, in shopping centres, whenever you're asked, we have to speak it.
Every day.
Everywhere we go.
I mean, we might have to fight it globally.
Well, the American movement is getting larger. Canadian movement is getting larger. Everything I put on my Facebook page goes around the US and is put on native radio stations and everything. We have to.
We should all connect and fight that way.
We have to.
The only way we can do it.
And we've got to let go of one of the things that affects us the most is competitiveness of trauma. The mothers or the kids who have suffered the most. And unfortunately, through the federal Senate inquiry and a lot of the adoption and forced adoption related groups, they were torn apart by that. I'm not part of any group. I'm just an adoptee. I'm a human being. And that's all I need to do. And I know when I stand in front of my Creator, I have done nothing wrong. And I will stand and be proud of who I am.
Awesome.
Even what I've been through, no matter what.
Yep.
I'm mixed First Nation and I will always follow the traditions of my people. Even though I grew up 20,000 miles from them.
Not break our spirit.
They can't.
Oh, fantastic.
But the Juggernaut, those that take more than their share, will always be there. But they don't have power because we give it to them. They themselves don't. The politicians that I've spoken with have no idea. If we continue to educate, work with independents, work with any person that will listen, they're going to have to challenge what we're saying sooner or later. And as I've said to many a politician that's bailed me up, has proved me wrong. I might not have degrees after my name,
You got life.
but I know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
you got life
So they
experience.
are like terrorists to us.
If
And we
you
don't
have,
fear them at all.
you have a for-profit industry with children, to me that's definition of child trafficking.
Yes.
Pure and simple.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
There's no other way to interpret it. If
Yeah.
you have a business of making money from the removal and adoption of children, you are child trafficking.
Absolutely. Yep.
Another little story. A mother from the Central Coast, Crown Street mother, who had her baby removed, and the horrific way that they did that back then by the Benevolent Society. Park that was supposedly funded with millions of dollars set up to support us When she rang and was put on to one of the counselors, she spoke to the matron that took her kid. The exact woman that took her child was the one that answered the phone that was supposed to counsel her. This stuff happens. This stuff is real. This stuff is real.
We're going to document all these cases.
Yeah, the only one, she's too broken. She'll never seek help again.
I think we should have a memorial for each child that dies in custody out of home care.
We should have a lot more than just a memorial.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
My thing of it is, we have to hold on and we cannot give up.
Yes.
We have to educate the children now that are up and coming of what is going on. Because they're the ones at risk of having their kids removed. Any child, thanks to Tony Abbott, any girl, 21 or younger, that is not legally married, the doctor has to mandatorily report to the Department of Health that she is pregnant. Every single one.
Every school as well.
That's a little thing that Abbott snuck through in the first 2 months of him being in as Prime Minister. So if they're getting reported and they can't afford it, their kid's gone. The amount of pressure that they're going through. Now I have friends in different circles around the place, and when their daughters and people I know fall pregnant when they're underage, they're going to record the pressure that is put on them to remove them.
That's right, mate. Shameful.
You know, they're going to record, and we've got to start using our phones. We got to start using our phones to record the abuse. When you go in front of a Centrelink doctor, record the session, whether they like it or not. You can say as soon as you walk in the door. Whenever you go to a minister, record it. Whenever you speak to anybody, record it.
We have to get their permission.
You can just say that it's being recorded. I don't care about permission. They didn't care about what was being done to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I recorded.
Exactly.
I done the same and I didn't want to hear it.
Nope. And as soon as they shut that door, you have it recorded that they are shutting the door and not willing to speak.
Yeah.
That gives us grounds to take this country to world court. I'm in the process of trying my best to find a way to bring this case in front of the world court for human rights abuse and child trafficking. We have exhausted every legal avenue, which is one of the last requirements. But I'm a one person. I need support in getting the evidence together. The process is simple. The paperwork is remarkably simple. Will it change anything? I don't know. Will it open people's eyes and maybe get the media to actually pay attention to the truth? Possible. People like DLF have a lot of clout. But I'm also talking with some legal-minded people into her accountability for the words that she speaks. If she is going to use her wealth to promote something that is illegal, that is a breach of law, in my understanding. I'm not a lawyer. But to me, there is a case to be answered that she has to become liable for what she is promoting. The ministers that promote it have to become liable. They do have a little loophole to escape it. That needs to be challenged. And it's under their oath of office and the breach of duty of care is where we can stop this from happening. By hurting them where it means the most, which is in their wallets. I could go on all day, but I won't. The effects of adoption, as we know, last for a lifetime. We actually know that it's generational. I know children and grandchildren of adoptees that have carried the same trauma as their parents and grandparents for being removed. They have the same relationship issues. They have the same issues with raising their own children. Extreme paranoia about even letting their kids go to school. And they've never experienced anything with dogs. It's just instinctual. If you understand neuroplasticity, the structures of the way the human mind works, you will understand why.
Yeah.
They've done chromosomal studies in Europe that have shown how trauma on a child alters the DNA, the genetic structure. That gets passed on. You look at us indigenous, we don't have to be raised in our culture, we're born knowing, even if we're mixed. That knowledge gets passed on. We have to get these people to understand it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
much.